Hey guys, welcome back to my temple. So, where we last left off, we were doing zodiacal magic, the beginning, part 1, right? Now, if you haven't seen that video, I just want you to look at this picture and see what you get from it. Because this is essentially the number 2 Sephiroth in the Tree of Life. This is a representation of that. This is a representation of all 12 of the zodiacal energies, beginning with Aries, which is cardinal fire, and ending with Pisces, which is mutable water. And there's a constant pattern of fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water. And there's a constant pattern of cardinal fixed mutable, cardinal fixed mutable, cardinal fixed mutable, cardinal fixed mutable. And you can see that there's the actual 2 energies and the extreme polarities of each of them, which is the fixed element. And you see that this is essentially a circle. So this is the beginning, right? This is the first step. So if you haven't digested this information, right, you need to know this information. Go back to the video I first made, which is the part 1, and do that. To everybody else, let's continue. So what I originally said is there's a point of energy, right? And this point of energy shoots itself off and I'm going to try and keep the camera still too. I apologize. In 6 directions, right? It's 12 directions, but it's really 6 different energies that explode outwards in 2 different directions, and each one has a different polarity of extreme. So this would be the negative or whatever, and this would be the positive, and this line right here would represent that it's the same actual quote-unquote energy, just like this one right here, and then the ones I'm making right here and right here, and it's going to make a grid of 12 lines of energy. And inside those lines is going to make a space of energy, because we're going to have 3 points of connection, which is the first plane of existence. You have 3 points of existence. That's, 3 represents Bina, which is Saturn, which is all about the material plane. Nothing can become material without first going through Saturn. It is essentially the gate to the abyss. But anyways, long story short, that makes up shape, and then there's 12 of those, and each of those has its own signature energy, which you call a zodiac sign. And it's basically the 4 fire, earth, air, and water elements, right? The fixed ones, but it's also the cardinal and mutable of each of those. So you have the 4 triplicities of the fire, the earth, the air, and the water, and that makes up the zodiac energy, right? And so that was the very first video. So what I just said is essentially a kind of a condensed form of like 22-ish minutes of information. But like I said, sacred geometry is really easy because all you're really doing is connecting what's already there. So sacred geometry never is like created, it's just being revealed. It's being revealed to our senses. So once you apply the laws that always exist that we're just now starting to use. We're not actually like making anything per se. We're just bringing into existence, into our awareness, something that was once hidden. And that's basically what we're doing with this. So this was kind of the beginning, right? You got your, so you got the beginning, which is like your source, God or whatever. And it shoots out in all different directions. And as it does it, it makes these connections with each of these energetic lines. And then that in itself forms different connections, right? So from 1 becomes 12. The 12, the 12 apostles, the 12 disciples, hint, hint. So from 1 becomes 12. And then they all become connected. Because all is one and all things are connected. And by doing this so casually, we're doing something that is happening that, you know, most people would probably not even become aware of. And yeah, that's not a perfect circle, but the science of it still is there. We've now created 3 points of contact. So we've essentially made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 triangular planes of materialization, right? So we've made 12 portals of energy, if you want to get technical, right? And all of that is actually one portal of energy. And so you've got 13 points of energy, right? And then, like I said, you know, you start with the first one, which is Aries, and then you got 12, which is Pisces, because you actually go backwards when you move around. Let me just make sure I'm getting a good view here. Apologize. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and 2, right? And so you've got the energy of Aries, you've got the energy of Taurus, you've got the energy of Gemini, you've got the energy of Cancer, you've got the energy of Leo, you've got the energy of Virgo, you've got the energy of Libra, you've got the energy of Scorpio, you've got the energy of Sagittarius, you've got the energy of Capricorn, you've got the energy of Aquarius, and once again, you've got the energy of Pisces, right? And you guys are familiar with that because everyone's like, ooh, I'm a Gemini, I'm a Scorpio, I'm a Sagittarius. Well, what they're really saying is that when you were born, this grid of energy that always exists right above us in the heavens, so to speak, the constellations of the heavens, the sun was in a particular energetic area, right? So for instance, if when you were born, the sun was in Cancer, you would say, I'm a Cancer. I'm a Cancer, everybody. I'm so emotional and I'm so intuitive and I'm so this and that. And yeah, I mean, to some degree, yeah, your energetic energy of your sun, which is basically your soul, which is what you identify as, yeah, it's a Cancer. But then you've also got your moon, you've also got your Saturn, you've also got your Jupiter, you've also got your Mercury, you've also got your Venus. You know what I mean? You've also got a culmination of 7 energies that were all placed on this game board. Start thinking of this as a game board, right? And those energies were placed on this game board at a specific time. And it's almost like a fingerprint of God. So when you were born, let's say Jupiter was here, right? And then we'll say Saturn was here. And we'll say Mercury was here. And we'll say Venus was here, right? And we'll say the moon was here. Let's see, what else? What else do we got? We need Mars. So let's just put Mars with this one. Like, I'm not going to get too in depth with, this is essentially astrology, but I'm not going to get too in depth with this. But, so when you're like, I'm a Cancer, I was born as a Cancer. what you fail to realize, if you indeed have this paradigm in your mind, is that in this scenario, you are also this. So in your communication of Mercury, which is, you know, all things Mercury was in the energy of Taurus, right? And so this also reflects your Mercury energy, because you got to think, as above, so below, as within, so without. So just as this is a representation of the divine representing itself, expressing itself in all possibilities, like I said, in Hakma. And then Bina is the beginning of the planetary energies, beginning with Saturn, which then creates the rest of the planets. And then those planets in themselves have parts of the zodiac energies. And then those planets go through the zodiac energies. Like I said, a game board, the pieces move, right? And as they're moving, those planets are coalescing with those energies of the zodiac signs. So for instance, when a moon's in 6, it's different than when the moon's in 3. So some energies go well together, some energies, quote unquote, don't play nice together. And so you get into this crazy like cosmic soup mix. But the point of this ramble, which is basically just letting you look into the door and see that you're way more than just your sun sign, if you're interested. And this is essentially what's the beginning of a natal chart, which you can easily find online. All you have to do is type in your date you were born, the exact time you were born, and the exact like location you were born. And then it basically triangulates that day and projects where the planets were in the zodiac energetic signs that day. And then it puts that out before you. And then it attempts to give you some like generic synopsis of what that actually means. Or you can really, really dive into this stuff and learn the symbolism yourself and get such an intuitive level that is way beyond any book you can read, where you can actually look at your natal chart and actually dissect your own energies, and things about yourself will just come into the light that have always been there that you'll just now realize. You'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe, like, that makes so much sense. Yeah, you know, that does explain why I'm so aggressive with, you know, money. You know, my Mars is in the sign of Taurus. You know what I mean? Like, it gets deeper than that, because then you also got to throw in the houses. And someone once said a good representation of that is you think of like a slot machine, and you got basically the planet, the zodiac sign, which is a part of the planet, and then the house, which is also a part of the planet, right? And so the house would basically be the subject of how that is actually affected in your own everyday material life, which is a reflection of the planetary energy itself. So like I said, I don't want to get too into that, but like I said, Venus and Taurus. Venus is essentially number 2, which is your house of money, your house of finances. And that's the subject matter of number 2. So when your planet was in number 2, that your money life will be reflected based on the planet that it currently was in. And then you get into the whole oppositions. And like I said, I don't want to get too crazy into that. I went way more on a tangent than I wanted to. But anyways, the point of this was, once you've got your 12 spaces, you start to make what is the beginning of a circle. So then you take those spaces and you break those down into 3 sections each, right? So now we're going to get a little crazy. Now we're going to try and keep the same system, but it's basically going to work itself out. Because like I said, sacred geometry just kind of does it. You don't have to really do much. It just does itself. So with that being said, you take this line of energy right here, and you already know it's going to connect close to this, so then you just pop right here, right? So then there's that. And then you've got this one right here. Hopefully you guys can see this, sorry. And you already have this line right here that we made. And so, you know, you just gotta kind of connect them. And then you got this one right here. And you got this one right here, which makes this one right here. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but I'm just trying to give you like a visual representation of what I'm trying to create. So just bear with me a minute, because once you start getting into like the dissecting like the real zodiac energies, it takes a minute to express as a writing, because you got to draw all these energy points, and then you got to dissect those into 3 more. So you end up with 36 different slices of energy, and each of the quote unquote, like for instance, number 7, number 7 is Libra, and that's also broken into 3 different sections. So it's still Libra in all 3, but it's different kinds of Libra. It's different shades of Libra, right? So, and it's called, so you've got 0 through 10 degrees, then you've got 10 through 20 degrees, and then you've got 20 through 30 degrees, right? And so when the planet might be right here. So let's say it's Mars. So Mars is in Saturn, and it's in Saturn between 10 to 20 degrees. So that means it's in the 2nd decan, right? And this would be the 1st, and this would be the 3rd. So you've got the 1st decan, the 2nd decan, and the 3rd decan, right? And that's 0 through 10, 10 through 20, and 20 through 30. And when it's all said and done, you have 36 angles that are each 10 degrees each. So you come out to 360 degrees, right? Which, as we all know, is a perfect circle, right? Right? It's starting to catch up, starting to kick in now. What at first seemed like a simple drawing, like there's so much information hidden in simple quote-unquote symbols, if you only knew. And you're starting to, because I'm showing you, like right now, look at this. This is a representation of 36 points of energy that are each expressing 12 different sections of energy in 3 sections. And I'm also getting into the planets. So I'm not going to get too crazy, because I want to give you a proper game board for us to put our game pieces, right? So this is our game board, and it has 12 different energies. And like I said, I don't want to get too far behind where I was, but it basically is, this is upside down, but it's that, you know what I mean? It's cardinal fire, fixed earth, mutable air, cardinal water, fixed fire, mutable earth, cardinal air, so on and so on and so on and so on. And that in itself is the energy that is represented by this, because this is a more advanced, because I said in the previous video that once you digest that first video, which is going to take a second, it's a good bit of information in that previous video, right? Don't underestimate that previous video. But then this video is the step up. This is the big brother, right? And so obviously we're about at 20 now, so I can't go too much further. Most people don't have the attention span to listen to something for much more than 20 or 30 minutes, unless they're really, really excited by it. And in that case, you'll just want to keep watching, I guess. And that'll, you know, give me motivation to keep making things. Because if people are interested in what I'm making, then that makes me want to keep making things. But anyways, this is the 360 degrees of energy. This is the 36 decans, which are the 12 zodiac energies broken into 3 slices, which are each 10 degrees each. 0 through 10, 10 through 20, and 20 through 30. And then you have all the planets, the 7 planets, and hopefully you remember the planet, because on the next video, I'm going to really start breaking down these planets, because you got to understand these zodiac energies, the planets are just a more denser version of those zodiac energies, or parts of them. For instance, Saturn is made up of Capricorn and Aquarius. So Saturn is cardinal earth and fixed air. So if you really, really want to get esoterical, Saturn is air. Saturn is air. And the sun is fire, and the sun is light, and Saturn is the opposite of the sun. Saturn is the darkness. And it's not like a negative, evil darkness. It is, you've been conditioned by the Hollywood and media to fear quote unquote darkness, because you've seen so many weird ass things that you've just repressed in your subconscious, that when you see darkness, it is so dark, it allows your mind to start imagining those things, and you get scared, and it brings it to the surface. The darkness is just the beginning. It's the essence. It's where everything of the material goes back and begins and recycles, and then shoots out and makes more. You know what I mean? It's a big old recycling center. And if you look at it from a perspective of things dying and decaying, then yeah, it's scary, it's spooky, it's evil. But if you look at it from a perspective of old energy becoming recycled to make new energy, to make bigger and better things, bigger and better experiences. Like I said, I'm starting to get off on a tangent again, but the next video is where we're going to break down the planets in each decan, and this is when we're going to start getting into which I really think is the fun stuff, because I'm new to this, but man, I'm really digging the whole tarot. And so this is going to be what is called the minor arcana, right? And what's funny is, as you learn the minor arcana, you end up forcing yourself to learn the major arcana, because you have to use the pieces of the major arcana. And actually, the major arcana are in itself the pieces and parts of the zodiac sign energy. And then the minor arcana are those pieces in specific decans, right? So if the Saturn is in the 2nd decan, that might be a good or bad energy. And then the tarot card of the minor arcana uses the symbolism of that energy and is represented in a card. And so you, in a sense, get all of this energy condensed into these cards that you then memorize and catalog into your mind. And then what's awesome is that the more you learn about, basically once you have a big enough catalog, everything is a springboard from everything else, because in this, everything is connected. Everything is one. Everything is a part of another thing. It gets more and more complex and more advanced, and it's like a big old giant. And the grade of Zelator, you learn about the crystals and, you know, condensed energy, and it's just a big old a fragmented pattern, a fractal. And this is what this is. You know what I mean? It's just it's more and more and more and more and more, but it's all based off the same simple concept that originated from the core. And as you learn all these energies, you start to make more and more and more and more associations. And what's cool is eventually your brain just starts acting differently, because it gets upgraded. Because each time you get these associations, you're adding a point of energy to your brain as a synapsis. And as you're connecting these points, as you connect this point, another point will start to form automatically, because you'll remember something else that have already been created. And before long, you've literally recreated your brain into like going from a dial-up modem to like a high-speed modem. It's able to handle more data. And because of that, you're able to receive more data. And then it just becomes a cycle. And then I'm at the point now where it's starting to, I basically want to let people know what I know. And I'm not just bullshitting. That's the cool thing. It's like, I'm not just like, oh, what do I say next? Oh man, what do I look up next? It's like, this is just me expressing this. So this is an expression of video number 2, which we're going to call Zodiacal Magic, the beginning, part 2. And then we're going to go into the next video, which is going to be Zodiacal Magic, the beginning, part 3, which you could also say is the minor arcana. So thank you very, very much, and I hope you learned something.